A demon climbed out of the gates of hell and said, Jim, come with us. We're waiting for you. Jim, this demon was huge, it was hideous, disgusting, but so deceptive. It sounded familiar, it sounded kind. Today, I'm reacting to one of the most intense and creepiest near-death experience that I've seen. And Jim Woodford was a retired pilot, and he was not religious at all, but he died, and he came face to face with the gates of hell and saw some very disturbing things, to say the least. But that's not even the most crazy part, because after that, Jim went to heaven and he saw Jesus, and their interactions are so powerful. It's so beautiful. It's so reminiscent of who Jesus is. And so make sure you stay to the end. First, we're going to see his interactions and coming in contact with the demonic, but then after that, he's going to go to heaven. And so let's dive into the video.
The green grass went from green to brown to scorched to black, and then dropped off in a steep crevasse. I've always been someone that had to understand how things worked. I think that's what made me a good pilot. And despite the fact I knew nothing about where I was, I knew that this is odd. This is a real anomaly. Within the scope of my vision, the whole thing transformed. And so I walked slowly and carefully over, and I could walk fine, to this abyss. And as I looked down, the canyon walls were dark, and I think it was probably coal. It was a shiny black. And as I looked down into this valley, the deeper it went, the darker it got. And as I'm looking, I see in the in the distance, in that valley, what I thought at first was a campfire, a red light, as you'd see looking at a campfire from 1.5 miles or 2 miles away. And I look, and then I realize it's not a campfire. It's growing larger, because now I realize the red light, the redness that I'm seeing is fire, but the reason it's growing is because the fire is coming from behind 2 large doors. And then I have to tell you that my vision had changed as well, and I could see 360 degrees around me without turning my head. And so I look at this red flame, and then it dawns on me, there are 2 huge, enormous, that's duplication, but 2 enormous doors opening wide. And I can hear them screeching as though they were on hinges that had not been oiled in a long time. And they made this hideous sound. And they opened wide. And I'm trying to think, what is this? What is this? And then I realized there's a figure emerging from this. And that is where, even to this day, after the thousands of times I've spoken about this, it terrifies me. Because, Jeannie, we've become a society of how bad can hell be? You know, how bad can it be? No Wi-Fi? Believe me, heaven is real, but so is hell. And I want our viewers to know this. The old-timey preachers, they said you're going to burn, it's going to be this. You know something? They were right. They were right. But we, in our consciousness now, and our so-called knowledge and our ability to have everything explained to us, we think, oh, well, you know.
You know, it's interesting. You know, Jesus talked a lot about hell. Like, he talked a lot about it. Like, there's a lot of references to hell. But even in the church now, it's like weird to talk about hell, like you're being, you know, hell and brimstone preacher. Hell is real. It's good to count the cost. It's good to know the consequences of your actions. I mean, you know, if you do certain things, you're going to prison. And if you do certain things, you're going to prison for life. And so hell is real. Let's keep watching. It's about to get crazy.
Ability to have everything explained to us, we think, oh, well, how bad can it be? Hell exists. It is a real place, and never in the history of mankind, Satan has had such an easy time to convince people to get on that wide road to hell. Never in the history of mankind.
Wow, it's a wide road. Like it's the road that the majority of people are going down. Be different. That's okay. Man, you gotta listen to how this creature talks to me.
So and it terrifies me because I don't want anyone watching to ever see what this flame. I also don't want. And then something seemed to emerge. It was huge. That's what they're going to see. And it was had a head. It was a large body, and it seemed to be searching around on the floor of this canyon, and then, as though it sensed my presence, it turned rapidly, and for a creature so big, and it was on fire, it turned toward me. And when its eyes focused on me, I had never seen such hatred as I saw in those eyes, not just for me, but for all of mankind. And then it began to come out of the cave and toward me. And for a large creature, it moved very quickly. And then it began to scale the cliff. I hear screaming. And the screaming was from the creature, but not of the creature. It was as if it had consumed souls. And it was the souls of the lost that I was hearing crying from its body. And all of a sudden, it emerged through the smoke and the mist and stood right up in front of me. And it's curious how your mind works. The thing that I remember the most, not just the visual look of it, but the sound of the saliva dripping from its fangs. And then, to my amazement and terror, it spoke to me. It knew me. I mean, I didn't think I was that bad a person. And it spoke to me with a great deal of familiarity. And saying things like, Jim, we are waiting for you. Come with us, Jim. It knew me. And I didn't think I was that bad a person. As I tried to turn away from it because its gaze was mesmerizing, and I believe with all my heart, saying things like, Janie, that had I not turned from it, I would have been taken. And I turned my back to it, and it reared up out of the pit. And the thing that I remember the most is the sound of its saliva dripping on the ground from its fangs. It was a big creature. And I remember with my back to it and not wanting to dare turn around and look at it.
Wow. I mean, just such deception. I mean, this thing had so much hatred in its eyes, but yet when it's speaking to him, it's luring him, it's seducing him. Wow. And I mean, the fact that it was familiar even means that, like, while he was on the earth, this thing was getting closer and was getting legal right and was, right behind him, let's say, but it was invisible. He had no idea that it was a seducing spirit. Maybe he was even having thoughts that this spirit was planting in his mind, and he had no idea. How deceptive of the enemy to really hate us so much, but yet to try to seduce us and try to act like it's on our side and that it cares about us. That is the enemy. That is the spirit of Antichrist. Such evil. Wow.
Remember, I said there's 6 words, and the first 3 were God forgive me. And then I raised both my hands, took them away from my eyes, and raised them to the sky, and I cried out to God. And I said, God, help me, help me. And why should I have any expectation? I who had ignored him all my life. Why? Because, Jeannie, we serve a God. I believe this with all my heart, that we serve a God that has so much forgiveness. He's no fool. You have to be truly contrite. You have to be absolutely sorry. You can't fake this one. And I cried out, God, help me. And instantly, before me.
No, this instantly thing, it reminds me of another testimony that I heard where someone was in trouble. They were having a near-death experience and they cried out to Jesus, and instantly they were cheek to cheek with Jesus. I mean, at the mention of his name, he was that close. Wow. I'm gonna link it up here. And so once I find the video, I think I did a reaction to it. Make sure you check out that video. It'll be up here somewhere at the top. But let's keep watching because angel's about to come and save him.
3 points of light from different places in that sky came very, very fast to one central point. And the light bloomed, and I realized I could see a form. And matter of fact, I saw 3 forms. And before they were even fully formed, a brilliant blue light shot from them and went past me and struck the creature. And it shrieked and screamed and turned and scrambled down into the pit. And to my right, I noticed there was a slight rise in the ground. And it was only about...
You know, it reminds me of the story of Daniel, where the Bible says as soon as Daniel turned his heart toward the Lord, that an angelic assistance was sent. I mean, as soon as he turned his heart to Jesus. I want you to be encouraged that even though there was a battle, God heard and God sent immediately. And so even though you might not see the answer to your prayer right now, even though you might not see the change, understand that heaven is moving on your behalf, that there is protection. What happens is you might feel the presence of evil. You might feel like you're in the midst of a battle, but when you cry out the name of Jesus, he comes. He's available. He's close to you. Man, this is so powerful because this is showing us what spiritual warfare truly looks like. Hey, let's keep watching because now he's about to actually have his encounter with Jesus. He's about to go to heaven. And so let's watch.
Maybe 15 yards away, just a gentle slope. And I looked, and for the first time, I saw another image. The tall angel was there, but he was kneeling. And he had his hands out like this, and he had a book opened. Facing him was an image I had not seen before. But this image, as beautiful as the guardians were, the image facing the kneeling angel was cloaked in golden light. And yet when I looked at the face, I could not see it. You know how you drive down on a hot day on a Texas road or anywhere in North America when it's a hot day and you see a shimmer on the pavement? The face was covered with this shimmer. And I'm trying to concentrate. And then I realized this golden light that flowed off this being wasn't just light, it behaved like slow-moving water. And it came down, and it was slowly making its way down that slope toward me. And I noticed that when it made its way over the flowers that were already beautiful and in bloom, when that golden light flowed over them, those flowers bloomed again.
Doesn't it make sense that Jesus is the life? He is the light of the world. Wow. When anything comes in contact with Jesus, it starts to produce light. And so this is telling us that when we get in the presence of the Lord, that where we feel like we're in a dry, dead place, life is coming to us when we just start to seek his presence. I mean, this is mind-blowing. Like, heaven is real, and heaven isn't just a place, it's a person. Heaven is Jesus. Heaven is all about Jesus. And so, man, these flowers are coming back to life. Man, what happens when you get around the glory of God? What happens when you get in the presence of God? You come back to life. Come on, let's keep watching.
And I watched in fascination as it made its way down, and it was coming for me. And I stood there and watched as it came down, and it pooled around me and then came in and encased my whole being, and something came up through me. And I realized that the image that the light came from was none other than Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And in that same moment of realization, the guardian closed the book, disappeared, and then that beautiful image turned toward me. The shimmer vanished, and I am, Janie, I'm looking at the face of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Someone that I thought was...
You know, it's so powerful because Jesus even said, no man can come unto me unless the Father draw him. I mean, even the fact that you're watching this video, that you have any hunger or curiosity to know who Jesus is, and let alone if you're a Christian and you're a believer, that is a gift of God. We cannot come to Jesus without him revealing himself to us. And so just like he couldn't see his face and he didn't know who that was, remember after Jesus resurrected that he was walking with his own disciples and they didn't recognize him. They didn't know who he was until he revealed himself, until he allowed them to realize who he was. I mean, even when Peter was talking and Jesus asked, who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you're the Son of God. And then Jesus says, only flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but only the Father which is in heaven. I mean, we can't know Jesus without God's help. And so this is so powerful. I mean, even in this, like the presence of God, the light that came from Jesus, like it knew Jim, like it was coming for Jim. It was coming to encounter him, even though he didn't know what was going on. I mean, this is speaking of our relationship with God, that even when we didn't know God, even when we were far away, he was coming after us. And it was by his grace, as soon as Jim got an encounter with the presence of God, the lights turned on and he realized who Jesus was. And when he looked, Jesus looked back at him. Even though Jesus already knew Jim was there, he was there for Jim. It wasn't until Jim gazed on him, knew who he was, had a hunger for him, that Jesus looked back and started to interact. It reminds me of Moses and the burning bush. I just love this. I'm getting excited because this is the word becoming real. Like this is the word of God. Let's keep watching. It gets even deeper. So, oh my goodness.
Someone that I thought was just some dusty old Jewish legend. And I'm looking at the Son of God into those incredible, beautiful, gray, blue, green eyes. And I fell to my knees into that golden light. At the same time, I felt I had to be closer, and I started to slowly crawl toward that light. And as I did, I then tried to get to my feet so I could get there faster. And I took a few more steps. And then Jesus looked at me and he smiled at me. He smiled at me. And that smile, for that brief second, when I looked into his face and he smiled at me, my intellect told me different. What intellect I had told me different. But to me, at that instant, I felt as though I was the only one he had ever created. And you, my dear friend, will have that same feeling. You will have that same feeling. It's that close a relationship. How is it possible that he can love billions of us and make us each feel as though we're the only one? And I started to cry. And I just had to get closer. And I had this overwhelming feeling that I had finally come home. And home was where he is. And I tried to get closer. And then, still smiling, he raised his right hand in this universal symbol that we all understand. Stop. Come no closer. And I'm not pushy, but I'm determined. I still tried to get a little closer, and he raised his hand higher. And when he did, the sleeve of his robe fell back.
It's interesting, you hear different people and their encounters with Jesus. And for some people, Jesus appears right in front of them, has conversations with them, and then sends them back. And then other people, they're at a distance, they can see him, but they can't come within a certain proximity. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's something to do with their relationship with Jesus? I mean, Jim wasn't saved when he had this encounter. And so is there something about, what do you think? What do you think? Put it in the comments what you think. Is there like a connection between uncleanliness and like the proximity with Jesus, like relationship and proximity? Put in the comments what you think. Let's keep watching.
And there, Janie, there, I could see the remains of the crucifixion in his wrist, this gaping hole. And I remember the light of his body shining through the hole in his wrist. And I began to cry, because when I saw that, I felt as though I had held the hammer, and driven the nails that crucified him. And I'd lived all my life not even thinking of the sin that we as humanity created. Only son. And we tortured him and murdered him in the worst way possible. And he felt every bit of it, as though you and I would feel it. And I'm on my knees, and I don't understand. I'm here, but I'm not allowed to come any closer. And then I realized he gave me another gentle smile, and I realized he was beginning to speak to me. And I was transfixed. And this is what Jesus said to me, Janie. James, my son, this is not yet your time. Go back and tell your brothers and sisters of the wonders we have shown you. He smiled again, and his right hand came down and closed over his left. And then the full enormity hit me that I was being denied the ability to stay. And I began to plead, to cry, to beg, please, Jesus, Please, I've wandered all my life. I have finally found you. Please don't send me back. Please let me stay. I beg you, please. And I said something then that I will regret forever. I said, please, Jesus, let me stay. I won't be any trouble. And he got this little smile on his face. Here I am saying to the Son of God, I won't be any trouble. And he nodded to me. And then suddenly, two guardians are on either side of me. They lift me as though I'm a feather. And I continue to plead, and they turn me around. And I tried to look over my shoulder to plead one more time. And when I did, Jesus had gone. But standing exactly in the place that Jesus had stood was the warrior angel. And suddenly he began to transform. And he transformed like the sun rising in the morning. And this golden light again, but with a reddish tinge to it. And his wingspan was enormous, 12-foot wingspan on either side. Imagine this 15-foot tall, magnificent being with violet eyes. And as I stared back at him, his wings opened to their full carriage. And his head went to one side. And I heard his voice, I'm sorry, James, but you have to go.
You know, it's really interesting to hear these final moments with Jesus. I mean, he's crawling and he's begging God not to send him back. He's crying and weeping. And then Jesus, you know, nods. It reminds me of like a boss, because, you know, when he does the nod, the angels come and they start to take Jim away, and Jim looks back and now Jesus is gone, kind of how Batman is, you know, you turn your head and he's gone. And in his place is this angel, and now the angel is transforming. And it's just making me think, you know, like Jesus didn't even show half or a third or even a quarter of his full glory. I mean, Jesus could have transformed. Jesus could have shown him even half of the glory that he had. And so this encounter is so powerful, because I'm thinking about not only our rewards in heaven, but, you know, when Jesus was transfigured on the mountain, like they had no idea the glory that Jesus was carrying. And this is before he was crucified and all glory was given unto him. And so, wow, this is just such a powerful testimony of heaven, such a powerful testimony of Jesus. If you enjoyed this, put in the comments, God is good. Make sure you subscribe and go over to Janie Duvall's channel. Watch the full video there. So powerful. Give her a like. And hey, I'll see you on the next video. Make sure you check it out. It should be right up here. God bless you.